She disappeared into the Illuminati's temple, but returned with new eyes long before the sand covered its roads and the wind carved its towers into broken teeth. People had already left it behind. It was once called a miracle of progress, a place of lights, data, and endless motion. Now it was silent.
No birds, no machines.
Only dust and echoes. A research convoy moved slowly at the edge of the ruins. 6 people in dark suits stepped out, their boots sinking into ash-gray ground. Drones floated above them, scanning, recording whispering data into their helmets. Among them was Lena Hale. She was not a soldier. She was not a hero. She was a systems analyst who had spent most of her life staring at screens, finding patterns others missed. She had been chosen not for strength, but for curiosity. The signal had brought them here. It had appeared 3 weeks ago, deep in space, old and new at the same time. Not a message, not a warning, a rhythm, a pulse that repeated every 72 seconds. When they traced it back, every calculation pointed to this city, to a place buried under it. "Still nothing on the surface?" said Jonah, the team's field lead. His voice sounded tight. Hard to believe this place is the source. Lena looked at the ground. Her instruments were screaming quietly in her visor. Magnetic distortions, gravity fluctuations, things that should not exist. "It's not on the surface," she said. "It's under us." They followed her readings to what looked like an empty plaza, cracked stone, fallen statues, nothing special. Then Lena stopped. Her display shifted. Lines bent, depth markers folded inward. She knelt and brushed away dust with her glove. Beneath it was a smooth black surface, untouched by time. No cracks. "Nowhere, Jonah," she said softly. "This isn't stone." The team worked fast. Portable drills, scanners, careful hands. The black surface stretched wider the more they cleared, forming a massive shape beneath the city. Not metal.
Not rock. Something else. Not rock.
Hours passed. As the sun sank low, the shape revealed itself fully. A temple. It had no carvings, no symbols, no doors. Just impossible angles that hurt to look at for too long. Its surface swallowed light instead of reflecting it. The air around it felt heavy, like the moment before a storm. No one spoke for a long time. "This wasn't built by us," Jonah finally said. "No," Lena agreed. "And it wasn't built recently either." They tried to scan its interior. The readings came back blank. Not blocked, blank, as if the inside did not exist. That was when the signal changed. The pulse grew stronger, faster. The ground trembled. The temple responded. A low sound rolled through the plaza, not loud, but deep, like something waking up. The black surface rippled. A line appeared, thin and bright, cutting through the structure. A doorway. It had not been there before. The team stepped back instinctively. Weapons were raised, though no one believed bullets would matter. "Mission Command needs to see this," Jonah said, his hand shaking as he activated his comm. Static answered him. No signal out. No signal in. The drones fell from the sky, lifeless. The doorway widened. Inside was darkness, but not empty darkness. It felt full, watching. "We should pull back," someone whispered. Lena did not move. Her heart was racing, but her fear was mixed with something else. Recognition. The strange feeling she had felt when she first saw the signal, like a half-remembered dream. her visor filled with data she had not requested. Patterns aligned. Probabilities collapsed into a single path. "This is why it called," she said. Jonah turned to her sharply. "Lena, don't." The ground shifted. Gravity twisted. The team was lifted off their feet, slammed backward as if the world had folded. Jonah hit the ground hard. Others cried out. Lena was still standing. The force wrapped around her like a hand, gentle and firm. The doorway brightened, revealing depth that should not fit inside the structure. She looked back at her team. Jonah was trying to reach her, crawling against invisible resistance. "Stay back," he shouted. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. Instead, she stepped forward. The moment she crossed the threshold, the sound stopped. The light vanished. The doorway sealed behind her as if it had never existed. Lena was gone. The temple went silent. Outside, the team lay scattered, stunned. The black surface smoothed itself, becoming once again a solid, featureless structure. Jonah scrambled to his feet and ran to where the doorway had been. He pounded on the surface with his fists. Nothing. "Lena!" he shouted. No answer. They scanned, dug, drilled until their equipment failed. There was no trace of her. Command finally re-established contact hours later. Rescue teams arrived. Scientists, soldiers, officials. They sealed the area, built walls, set guards. The official report was short. One civilian researcher lost during a structural collapse. Case closed. The temple did not respond again. Days passed, then weeks. The world moved on, but deep beneath the dead city, Lena opened her eyes. She was standing on a floor that looked like glass but felt warm under her feet. The space around her was vast, stretching farther than her eyes could see, yet somehow enclosed. There were shapes in the air, not bodies, not machines. They shifted slowly, like thoughts taking form. A voice spoke, not aloud. Inside her mind, "You have entered the place between truths." Lena tried to speak, but her throat felt tight. "Where am I?" she managed. "You are inside the structure your kind named with shadows," the voice said. "A name built from fear and stories." "The Illuminati," Lena whispered. The shapes reacted, a ripple of motion passing through them. "A human word," the voice said. "Not our own." Lena's legs trembled, but she stayed upright. "Why me?" "Because you listened," the voice replied. "Because you followed the signal instead of ignoring it." Images flooded her mind. Stars dying. Civilizations burning, species erased without ceremony. Worlds abandoned. "You are the last observer," the voice said. "Your kind has reached the edge of its path." "No," Lena said, shaking her head. "You're wrong." The shapes shifted again.
"Curious now. Your history says otherwise," the voice replied.
Conflict, division,
self-destruction. "That's not all we are," she said, her voice stronger.
"You're only looking at the worst parts." Silence filled the space. Then the voice spoke again, quieter.
"You will remain here," it said. "You will watch."
"You will record the end." The floor beneath her pulsed with soft light. Lena felt something touch her eyes. She screamed. Above the dead city, far beyond the sealed temple, the stars continued to shine. And somewhere deep inside the ancient structure, a human mind refused to accept the future it was being. Lena could feel the weight of the space around her. But it was not gravity as she knew it. The air had no smell, no temperature, yet it pressed against her skin like a thick thought. The shapes that hovered in the void moved slowly now, their motions more deliberate. They were studying her, or perhaps waiting for her to do something. She did not know which. The voice spoke again, not from anywhere, but from inside her mind. You are patient. That is rare among your kind. I want to go home, Lena said. The words felt strange coming from her mouth, as if she had not spoken in years. I don't belong here.
You have not yet seen, the voice said. The shapes rippled as if laughing.
This is not where you belong. This is where your kind's truth has been kept. Lena's head spun. She took a careful step forward. The floor beneath her feet reflected a light she could not place. It shifted, forming patterns that she instinctively knew were not random. Lines, circles, spirals, and angles appeared and vanished before her eyes. Each shape seemed alive, moving with purpose. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling.
"We are the custodians," the voice replied. "We existed before your sun burned.
We watched species rise and fall. We guided your kind in small ways, unseen, unnoticed. You call it myth, you call it legend. It is neither." Lena blinked. She wanted to protest, to say humans could not be guided by invisible beings. Yet the data in her mind seemed to confirm it. She could see probabilities bending subtly around the shapes. They were manipulating, influencing, shaping. She did not understand how, but she felt it. "Why me?" she asked again. "Because you noticed. Because you followed the signal. Because you did not fear the unknown." She shook her head. "I am not special. I am just one person." The shapes moved closer, folding around her. Lena felt a strange sensation, like a tide pulling at her thoughts. Memories appeared in her mind. Not hers. Not human. Scenes of civilizations rising on distant planets, technologies beyond comprehension, wars that ended entire species in minutes, and then Earth. The rise of humans. Moments of courage, of failure, of creativity. The custodians showed her everything, not to frighten her, but to teach her. "You have potential," they said, "not for power, but for understanding. Your kind can adapt in ways others cannot. That is why you remain." Lena felt the room, or whatever this place was, shifting around her. The floor became liquid, reflecting the infinite above. She fell to her knees. "I don't know if I can do this." "You already are," the voice said. Understanding is action. Observation is change. Images of humanity flashed through her mind. Wars, famines, triumphs, discoveries. She saw small acts of kindness, the persistence of humans to continue despite fear and failure. The custodians expected only chaos and destruction, yet she could see the stubborn hope that humans carried. "You are not like the others," she said aloud. "You think humans only destroy, but we also create. We learn. We survive." The shapes paused. The light shifted. Lena felt that she had made them reconsider, if only slightly. The voice returned, quieter now. "Perhaps. You may see what others cannot. That is why you have come here." A sudden thought struck her. "If you know our history, then why show me this? Why not just let us fail?" The custodian's presence seemed to pulse, because even we cannot predict everything. Some anomalies exist outside our control. Your kind is one such anomaly. You will witness. You will learn. You will understand, and perhaps you will change what we cannot. Lena took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind in her mind. She could feel knowledge pressing against her, demanding to be understood. The floor rippled beneath her again, forming a path of light. It led forward, into darkness that felt alive. "Follow," the voice said. "Do not fear. What you see will shape what you understand. What you learn may shape your kind." She hesitated. A part of her wanted to turn back, to vanish into memory and forget this place. Another part, the part that had always searched for patterns, for truth, for meaning, urged her forward. She stepped onto the lighted path. The shapes parted, forming walls of swirling motion around her. She walked slowly, every step feeling like a decision. The farther she went, the more the patterns seemed to form into language she could almost read. Not words, but ideas, intentions, connections. Her mind raced to grasp it, to understand the hidden meaning behind the light. "You see," the voice said, "not all knowledge is dangerous, but knowledge requires responsibility. You will learn. You will see. You will decide." Lena nodded, though no one could see it. She felt the pulse of the temple through her feet, through her hands, through her eyes. It was alive. It was aware. And it seemed to respond to her, as if testing her. "You may wish to leave," the voice said, "but leaving now would give you nothing. You will return unchanged, but you cannot return unchanged. You will carry what you see with you." Images came again. Humans climbing mountains, walking across deserts, building machines, falling in love, dying. Other species that had failed, civilizations that had been extinguished in moments, all of it presented to her. She saw patterns, a formula of life, of survival, of collapse. Humans were flawed, but they were persistent. That persistence was unpredictable. "You fear your kind will fail," she said aloud. "But maybe we can survive. Maybe we can do more than you expect." The shapes pulsed brightly. Lena felt energy, understanding, and pressure all at once. The custodian spoke, almost in agreement. "Perhaps observation alone does not define your future. Your actions may." Lena's mind raced. She realized that she was not just an observer. She was part of a test, not a weapon, not a prisoner, a witness, and maybe, just maybe, a guide. "I will watch," she said, "and I will learn. But I will also act. I will not be silent." The temple seemed to respond to her declaration. The path ahead brightened, revealing a vast hall. Columns of light stretched into infinity, shapes swirling around them. The room pulsed with history, memory, and possibility. It was both beautiful and terrifying. "You have courage," the voice said. "Your kind may be dangerous, but dangerous is not always destructive. Learn what you can. Use what you can. And above all, see clearly." Lena's vision sharpened. She could perceive layers of the temple, its construction, its purpose. Every pattern, every shape, every motion had meaning. And yet, the deeper meaning was always just beyond complete understanding. She would have to work, to think, to feel, to survive. She took another step forward, deeper into the hall. The shapes moved with her, guiding, observing, testing. The air shimmered with possibilities, each one a thread she could follow or ignore. "You are ready," the voice said at last. "Ready to see what your kind cannot yet imagine." Lena felt a strange calm descend over her. Fear had not left, but it had become part of her awareness. She understood that this was only the beginning. The temple had opened, the custodians had revealed themselves, and humanity's story was no longer entirely theirs to tell. She was no longer just Lena Hale, systems analyst. She was a witness, a student, and perhaps one day, a teacher. And somewhere, far above the dead city, the stars continued to shine, unaware that one of their watchers had become aware of humanity's potential. The temple waited. The custodians waited. And Lena walked onward, into knowledge, into power, into possibility, carrying the weight of the future in her mind and heart. Time passed differently inside the temple. Minutes stretched into hours, hours into days. Yet Lena felt no hunger, no fatigue. Her mind was awake in ways it had never been before. She could see not just the structure of the temple, but the structure of reality itself. Lines of probability, streams of potential, threads of thought and action were all visible to her now, intertwining around every living being, every planet, every moment. The custodians appeared more clearly this time, not as shapes, but as patterns of energy that shifted constantly, like living constellations. They did not speak aloud. Their communication was thought and feeling, and Lena felt it everywhere at once. "You have changed," the voice said inside her mind. "You see what others cannot." That is both a gift and a danger. Lena had grown accustomed to the knowledge that flowed into her, but the warnings were constant. She could feel the weight of understanding pressing on her. Humans, she realized, were fragile, not physically, but in mind and spirit. They made choices too fast, trusted too easily, or not at all. Yet despite all this, they endured. "I understand," Lena whispered. "I see the patterns. I see what might happen. I see where we fail. But I also see where we survive." The temple pulsed in response. Energy flowed beneath her feet, through her body, into her mind. She felt the interface within her changing, refining her senses. She could see intention, motive, and even probability of outcomes for humans and other species alike. The custodians had given her this gift, but with it came responsibility.
You will be tested, the voice said.
Not by us, but by them, by those who watch your kind from afar. What you do with this knowledge will determine more than you can yet see. Images appeared in front of her. Fleets of alien ships, silent, observing Earth. Species older than humans, their technology vast, their intentions unreadable. Lena realized that her species was being watched, studied, measured. The signals humans had thought were myths, conspiracy, were in truth echoes of those watchers. "They do not know what we can become," Lena said aloud, the words firm. "But I will make them see our potential. I will show them that humans are more than they expect." The custodians pulsed brightly, as if approving. To show is dangerous. To act is dangerous. To perceive is both, but perception alone changes things. You will learn, and the others will too. She walked deeper into the temple, the floor beneath her glowing faintly, illuminating endless chambers filled with patterns of light and energy. Each pattern was a record of life, thought, and history. She could sense the rise and fall of civilizations, the triumphs and failures of countless species. She could feel the flow of knowledge, the weight of memory, and the pulse of time itself. "You are ready for the interface," the voice said. "What you have seen is only preparation. You will now perceive fully. What you see will alter your mind. What you learn will change you." A light descended over her eyes, and Lena felt her vision expand. She could see through walls, through layers of matter, through time and probability. She could see the choices humans had made in the past and the outcomes that had resulted. She could see choices they might make in the future and the paths those choices would create. Her mind reeled with the possibilities, yet she did not fall. She adapted, absorbed, processed. "You have the eye now," the voice said, "but the eye sees. It does not judge. You must learn to act with discernment." Lena nodded. She could see now the subtle signals humans gave, the intentions they hid even from themselves. She could see the patterns of cooperation and conflict, the sparks of creation and the seeds of destruction. She realized that humans were unpredictable, messy, and dangerous, but also resilient and brilliant. The custodians had underestimated them, and now she understood why. Outside, on the surface of the dead city, small groups of humans continued their work. They had noticed anomalies, satellites realigning themselves, old structures shifting subtly, strange lights in the sky. A resistance group led by Marcus Assistant, a historian whose work had been dismissed as conspiracy, began to piece together the truth. The Illuminati, the myths, the legends, they were not fiction. They were a cage, and someone had unlocked it. Inside the temple, Lena felt their movements, their intentions, even their questions. She could sense their search for understanding, their hope mixed with fear. She could see the first sparks of realization forming in their minds. They were reaching for truths that humans had always sought, but could never fully grasp. And now she could help them. "You will teach them," the voice said, "but not all at once. You must choose carefully. Knowledge is a seed that can destroy as easily as it can create." Lena felt the weight of that responsibility. To teach humanity, to guide it, was more than she had ever imagined. But she also knew she was not alone. The custodians watched, the temple recorded, and she could perceive the threads connecting all life. She could act, influence, and protect. The power was immense, but so was the risk. "Then I will teach them," she said aloud. "I will show them what they can become, not just what they are." The temple pulsed, a wave of energy that filled her mind and strengthened her resolve. She felt herself adapting further, integrating the knowledge, the vision, the understanding. Her eyes glowed faintly with awareness. She could perceive patterns in thought, energy, and intention that were invisible to others. She could see the rise and fall of possibilities before they occurred. She was ready. "You have learned," the voice said. "Now you must see the test. You will encounter those who will challenge your understanding. Your choices will shape them, and in turn, they will shape the path of your kind." The walls of the temple shifted, revealing a corridor lined with energy and light. At the end, Lena could sense the presence of beings who were not human, not custodians, but something else. Observers, watchers from beyond, waiting, studying. She could feel their curiosity, their calculation, their caution. They did not yet know what humans could do. She stepped forward, her mind steady, her eyes open. Every thread of probability, every line of intention, every spark of life was visible to her. She was no longer just Lena Hale, systems analyst. She was a bridge between species, between knowledge and action, between what humanity was and what it could become. The corridor seemed endless, yet she moved without hesitation. She could feel the presence of the observers growing stronger. Their awareness of her was like a pressure on her mind. But she did not falter. She understood that they had underestimated humans, and now she was the proof of their miscalculation.
You see clearly? The voice said.
But clarity is only the beginning. You will be tested by knowledge, by choice, by action. Your kind's fate is not written. You may influence it. That is your purpose. Lena felt a surge of determination. She would not fail. She would carry this understanding, this vision, and use it to help humanity rise beyond expectation. The custodians had shown her the patterns, the observers had noted her existence, and now the threads of potential stretched before her, waiting for her action. As she reached the end of the corridor, Lena could sense the faint hum of alien technology, the presence of other minds calculating probabilities and outcomes. She knew that the challenge ahead would test everything she had learned. She would have to act with wisdom, restraint, and courage. The choices she made now could ripple across the stars. She paused for a moment, feeling the weight of it all. The custodians were silent, their energy pulsing gently. She was alone, yet not alone. She was ready to face the Watchers, to demonstrate the potential of her species, to begin the next phase of understanding. With a deep breath, Lena stepped into the chamber, her eyes glowing faintly with the perception of what was to come. The observers noticed her, their attention sharp and precise. She met them with the calm certainty of one who has seen beyond the ordinary, who understands both the fragility and the strength of humanity. In that instant, she became more than human. She became a symbol, a witness, and a participant in a story that stretched across time and space. The test had begun, and Lena Hale was ready to face it. The temple pulsed around her, alive and aware, as the Watchers considered the unpredictable potential of a species they had never fully understood. And in that moment, humanity's place in the universe began to shift, quietly but irrevocably, with one human mind now awake to the possibilities that had always existed but had never been seen. Dying, 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 Lena stood in the chamber, the faint glow of her eyes illuminating patterns that shifted in the air. The observers, alien in form and thought, measured her every movement. She could feel their calculations, their predictions, their curiosity. Yet she was no longer afraid. The knowledge she carried, the vision she had gained, gave her a calm certainty. The custodians had taught her to perceive without bias, to understand without judgment, but now understanding was not enough. Action was required. She realized that humans had survived not because they were perfect, but because they could change, adapt, and act in ways that others could not predict. The observers moved closer, their energy forming shapes Lena could barely comprehend. They projected possibilities, lines of probability, outcomes based on their understanding of humanity. They expected chaos, failure, or compliance, but Lena had something they could not measure: human will, human creativity, human hope. "I am here to show you," Lena said aloud, her voice steady. "Not to fight, not to beg, not to hide, but to show that my species can be more than you predict." The air shimmered. The observers seemed to pause, their calculations faltering. They had never encountered this level of resolve, this clarity of purpose. Lena realized that they were evaluating her not as an individual, but as a representative of humanity. "You will be tested," the voice of the custodians echoed in her mind. "The choices you make now will be seen across space and time. Your actions may protect, or they may end what you carry. Choose carefully." Lena drew a deep breath. The threads of probability stretched before her, twisting and folding in patterns she could now read. Each thread represented a decision, a possible action, a ripple that could extend across worlds. She could see the consequences of many actions, but not all. There was always uncertainty, and that uncertainty was humanity's strength. "I will not be a weapon," Lena said. "I will not be a pawn. I will act with knowledge, with thought, and with care. I will guide, not control." The observers reacted to her declaration. Their energy pulsed, testing her resolve, probing her mind. They tried to see if fear or anger would influence her choices. They found none, only determination and clarity. Lena realized that she had passed the first measure. But the real challenge was only beginning. A new path opened before her, lined with energy that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. The chamber seemed to stretch endlessly, yet every step she took felt guided, purposeful. The temple had become more than a structure. It was a living record, a network of understanding, and she was now a part of it. "You see clearly," the custodian said, "but clarity must be paired with wisdom. Your species is capable of chaos and creation alike. You must choose which you cultivate." Lena focused on humanity. She saw the people who had never left the city, the historians, the scientists, the resistance. She could feel their curiosity, their hope, and their fear. She could see how small acts, decisions made in the present, could alter the course of their civilization. And she could see that they were reaching for knowledge, for truth, even without knowing it fully. "I will show them," Lena said. "I will help them see, help them understand, without forcing them. I will plant the seeds of knowledge and let them grow." The temple responded. The energy around her intensified, and Lena felt the interface within her adjusting. Her perception sharpened. She could now see the flow of thought, the subtle influence of intention, the paths of learning and discovery that humans could follow. It was more than vision. It was insight, and it came with responsibility. "You are ready," the custodian said. "Ready to influence, not dominate. Ready to teach, not command. Ready to carry the weight of knowledge without breaking." Images appeared before Lena's mind. She saw humans on Earth, small groups piecing together anomalies, noticing patterns in the world that no one else had understood. She saw Marcus and his team, discovering old symbols, aligning with hidden signals, reaching for truths that had been buried. She felt their excitement, their frustration, their hope. "They are ready," she whispered. "They just need guidance." The observers tested her once more. They projected visions of disaster, of failure, of humans being destroyed by forces they could not yet perceive. Lena's mind expanded to include all possibilities. She felt fear, but she also felt control. She understood that prediction was not certainty. Humans were unpredictable, chaotic, and creative. That unpredictability was not weakness. It was potential. "I will not let them fail because of fear," Lena said. "I will teach, I will guide, and I will show them how to survive, not for me, but for all of us." The energy around her shifted, acknowledging her resolve. The observers paused, their calculations reforming, uncertain now. They had assumed compliance, obedience, or destruction. Instead, they found initiative, understanding, and courage. Lena had become a proof of her species' potential.
"You carry responsibility," the custodian said. "The knowledge you have gained is immense."
But it is not absolute. You must act with care, with patience, and with insight. Your choices will echo far beyond your immediate surroundings.
Lena, understood.
She could see how small actions in the present could ripple across time and space. She could influence thought, intention, and decision, but she could not control outcomes. That balance was what it meant to be human, to act with knowledge, to hope, and to persist despite uncertainty. "I will act with care," Lena said. "I will not dominate, but I will influence. I will not control, but I will guide. And I will do so with wisdom." The path before her shimmered, and the temple opened further. She saw new chambers filled with patterns of life and thought, with the histories of countless civilizations. She realized that she could now navigate these patterns, learn from them, and apply that understanding to guide humanity. The observers remained silent but attentive. They had witnessed something unexpected, a human mind capable of comprehension and action beyond the scope of their predictions. Lena's presence had altered their calculations. She was not merely an observer. She was a participant, a catalyst. "You are more than we expected," the custodian said. "But that is the nature of your kind. Unpredictable, persistent, capable of greatness."
Lena felt a surge of determination. She would not waste this opportunity.
She would return to humanity, carrying the knowledge, the vision, and the understanding she had gained. She would show them what was possible, teach them how to perceive and act, and prepare them for the challenges that lay ahead. "I am ready," Lena said aloud. "I will carry this knowledge back to them. I will help them see, help them understand, and help them survive. Not for me, but for all of humanity." The temple pulsed, the light around her intensifying. She felt the interface within her adjust, solidify, integrate, the knowledge, the perception, and the responsibility. She was ready to leave, ready to act, ready to guide. The observers watched, their calculations uncertain but intrigued. Lena stepped forward, the path of light carrying her toward the doorway that led back to the surface. She felt the pulse of the temple, the presence of the custodians, and the potential of humanity all converging within her. As she crossed the threshold, the chamber shifted behind her. The light dimmed, the patterns faded, but the knowledge remained. Lena had been changed, transformed, and empowered. She was no longer just a human. She was a witness, a teacher, and a guide. The future of her species rested in part on her choices. Above the dead city, the world continued unaware. The dust settled. The resistance worked. Marcus and his team continued their search, and somewhere beneath the surface, Lena emerged from the temple, ready to carry the vision of what humanity could be. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the patterns of possibility she now carried within her. The custodians observed silently, knowing that they had entrusted something immense to a human mind. And for the first time, Lena understood the full weight of her role. She would watch, she would learn, she would guide, and humanity would see through her eyes what it had never seen before. The test was ongoing, but Lena had passed the first trial. Now the work of teaching, guiding, and preparing humanity for its next step could begin. Lena emerged from the temple into the pale light of the ruined city. The wind carried dust across her face, but it no longer startled her. Her eyes, now different from those of ordinary humans, perceived the layers of the world as if they were lines of light and energy. Every movement, every intention, every thread of possibility was visible to her. She had returned, but she was not the same. The city was silent, empty, but Lena could sense others. Small groups moved in the distance, resistance teams that had been searching, scientists who had noticed anomalies in the skies and signals. Marcus and his team were among them, their eyes wide with disbelief as they caught sight of her. Lena walked toward them, her steps calm, measured. She could see their thoughts, their fear, their hope. They were reaching for truths they could not fully understand. And now she could guide them. "You're alive," Marcus whispered, stepping forward. "We thought." "Yes," Lena said softly. "I am alive, and I have seen things that you cannot yet imagine. But I have returned to help." The group stared at her, unsure what to believe. The signals, the temple, the stories, they had all seemed impossible. And yet, here she was, different, changed, aware. Lena's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the patterns she now carried within her. She did not need to speak to convey knowledge. They could feel it in her presence. "I will show you," Lena continued. "I will help you understand. But you must listen, not just with your ears, but with your minds. The world is bigger than you know, and humans are only beginning to see it." Marcus nodded, swallowing his fear. "We'll follow you."
Tell us what to do. Lena raised her hand, and the air seemed to shimmer.
Lines of light appeared, connecting people, objects, and distant points in the city. She could see probabilities, intentions, the flow of action and consequence. Each thread pulsed with potential, and she could guide them, show them where to act, how to perceive, and how to learn. "You must understand," Lena said, "that knowledge alone is not enough. You can see patterns, you can predict outcomes, but humans are unpredictable. That unpredictability is our strength."
"You will use it, not fight it." The team listened, awe and fear mingling in their eyes.
They began to move, guided by Lena's perception, discovering hidden signals, old symbols, and traces left by those who had influenced humanity's past. She showed them how to read the energy in the air, how to sense intentions, how to see the connections that had been invisible before. Step by step, the city transformed from ruins into a map of insight. As they worked, Lena felt the presence of other minds beyond Earth. Alien watchers, observers who had studied humanity from afar, were calculating, predicting, and waiting. She could sense their curiosity and caution. They had not expected humans to have this awareness, this potential, and Lena was proof. "They do not understand us," she whispered to herself. "But they will," the custodian's voice echoed faintly in her mind. "You carry knowledge, perception, and responsibility.
Use it wisely. The future is not set, but your actions will influence it."
Lena felt a wave of understanding. She could perceive the probability of outcomes, the threads of influence, the paths humans could take, and yet she also felt the weight of responsibility. Every choice she made, every guidance she offered would ripple across the species. She had been given a gift, but it was also a burden. Marcus approached her, holding a small device.
"We found this," he said. "It's unlike anything we've seen."
Symbols, patterns, signals. It seems to respond to thought. Lena nodded. She could see the energy within it, the potential to influence and communicate across distances. "It is part of what the custodians left," she said. "It will help us, but it will also test us. We must use it carefully." The team began to experiment under her guidance. They discovered how to align signals, how to interpret patterns, and how to sense energy in ways they had never imagined. Lena's perception allowed them to see the invisible, to understand probabilities, and to anticipate outcomes. Knowledge spread, slowly but surely, through careful instruction and demonstration. Days passed, though time felt different to Lena. She could sense the unfolding of events. the subtle shifts in thought and action across the city and beyond. Humans were learning, adapting, and beginning to understand. Small victories, small discoveries began to accumulate, forming a foundation for something greater. But Lena also sensed danger. The alien observers were calculating, cautious but intrigued. They measured humanity's potential and reconsidered their assumptions. Some threads hinted at possible conflict, while others hinted at cooperation. Lena understood that the choices of humans would now be observed, tested, and perhaps challenged.
"We are being watched," she said to the group.
Not by spies, not by governments, but by minds far older and more advanced than ours. They do not yet know what we are capable of. We must show them, not with violence, but with understanding, with action, with hope. The team nodded, trust growing in Lena's guidance. They began to move beyond the city, tracing signals, interpreting patterns, uncovering anomalies that had been hidden for centuries. Each discovery was a step forward, a proof of humanity's potential. Lena's eyes glowed faintly as she guided them, her perception extending beyond the ordinary senses, mapping intentions and probabilities. She realized that humanity's future depended on understanding, not domination. Knowledge was not power alone. It was a tool for connection, insight, and survival. And she would teach, demonstrate, and guide, ensuring that humans could act with awareness, courage, and responsibility. In the distance, the stars glimmered. Lena felt the threads of observation extending far beyond Earth. Alien minds, watchers, observers were noting every movement, every decision. They calculated outcomes, adjusted probabilities, and tried to understand. But Lena had changed the game. She was no longer merely a human. She was a conduit, a bridge between the knowledge of the custodians and the potential of her species. "We are ready," she said softly to the team. "But readiness is only the beginning. We must act wisely, with patience and insight. The world, the stars, and humanity itself are watching, and our actions now will ripple far and wide." The team followed her, guided by the knowledge and vision she had received. The city, the signals, the hidden structures, all were now tools for understanding, for growth, for preparation. Lena led them, teaching, guiding, and ensuring that every discovery, every insight was understood, applied, and preserved. She could feel the custodians' presence, faint but reassuring. Their guidance had prepared her, but the actions she would take now were her own. She understood the weight of her role, to teach without controlling, to guide without dominating, to prepare humanity without imposing herself. Lena's eyes glowed brighter as she moved forward. The threads of life, energy, and intention were clear to her now. She could see humanity's potential, the paths it might take, and the challenges it would face. And she could see her own role in shaping that future. Above the ruins, the stars shone silently. Observers calculated, waited, and reconsidered. They had not expected humans to be capable of this awareness, this insight, this clarity. And Lena, carrying the vision and knowledge of the custodians, would ensure that humanity's potential was recognized, prepared, and ready. She led the team onward, through ruins, across signals, and into the beginnings of understanding. The future was uncertain, the challenges great, but the possibilities were endless. And with her guidance, humanity would see, learn, adapt, and survive. The temple had changed her, and now she would change humanity. The watchers observed, the stars waited, and Lena moved forward, eyes glowing, mind clear, heart determined, carrying the vision of what humans could become into the world. Long before the sand covered its roads and the wind carved its towers into broken teeth, people had already left it behind. It was once called a miracle of progress, a place of lights, data, and endless motion. Now it was silent. No birds, no machines, only dust and echoes. A research convoy moved slowly at the edge of the ruins. 6 people in dark suits stepped out, their boots sinking into ash-gray ground. Drones floated above them, scanning, recording, whispering data into their helmets. Among them was Lena Hale. She was not a soldier. She was not a hero. Ha! She was a systems analyst who had spent most of her life staring at screens, finding patterns others missed. She had been chosen not for strength, but for curiosity. The signal had brought them here. It had appeared 3 weeks ago, deep in space, old and new at the same time. Not a message, not a warning. A rhythm, a pulse that repeated every 72 seconds. When they traced it back, every calculation pointed to this city, to a place buried under it. Still nothing on the surface, said Jonah, the team's field lead. His voice sounded tight. Hard to believe this place is the source. Lena looked at the ground. Her instruments were screaming quietly in her visor. Magnetic distortions, gravity fluctuations, things that should not exist. It's not on the surface, she said. It's under us. They followed her readings to what looked like an empty plaza. Cracked stone, fallen statues. Nothing special. Then Lena stopped. Her display shifted. Lines bent, depth markers folded inward. She knelt and brushed away dust with her glove. Beneath it was a smooth black surface, untouched by time. No cracks, no wear.
Where?
Jonah, she said softly, this isn't stone. The team worked fast. Portable drills, scanners, careful hands. The black surface stretched wider the more they cleared, forming a massive shape beneath the city. Not metal, not rock, something else. Hours passed. As the sun sank low, the shape revealed itself fully. A temple. It had no carvings, no symbols, no doors. Just impossible angles that hurt to look at for too long. Its surface swallowed light instead of reflecting it. The air around it felt heavy, like the moment before a storm. No one spoke for a long time. This wasn't built by us, Jonah finally said.
No, Lena agreed. And it wasn't built recently either. They tried to scan its interior.
The readings came back blank, not blocked, blank, as if the inside did not exist. That was when the signal changed. The pulse grew stronger. Faster. The ground trembled. The temple responded. A low sound rolled through the plaza, not loud but deep, like something waking up. The black surface rippled. A line appeared, thin and bright, cutting through the structure. A doorway. It had not been there before. The team stepped back instinctively. Weapons were raised, though no one believed bullets would matter.
Mission Command needs to see this, Jonah said, his hand shaking as he activated his comm. Static answered him.
No signal out, no signal in. The drones fell from the sky, lifeless. The doorway widened. Inside was darkness, but not empty darkness. It felt full, watching.
We should pull back, someone whispered. Lena did not move.
Her heart was racing, but her fear was mixed with something else. Recognition. The strange feeling she had felt when she first saw the signal, like a half-remembered dream. Her visor filled with data she had not requested. Patterns aligned, probabilities collapsed into a single path. This is why it called, she said. Jonah turned to her sharply. Lena, don't. The ground shifted, gravity twisted. The team was lifted off their feet, slammed backward as if the world had folded. Jonah hit the ground hard. Others cried out. Lena was still standing. The force wrapped around her like a hand, gentle and firm. The doorway brightened, revealing depth that should not fit inside the structure. She looked back at her team. Jonah was trying to reach her, crawling against invisible resistance. "Stay back," he shouted. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. Instead, she stepped forward. The moment she crossed the threshold, the sound stopped. The light vanished. The doorway sealed behind her as if it had never existed. Lena was gone. The temple went silent. Outside, the team lay scattered, stunned. The black surface smoothed itself, becoming once again a solid, featureless structure. Jonah scrambled to his feet and ran to where the doorway had been. He pounded on the surface with his fists. Nothing. Double pick. "Lena!" he shouted. No answer. They scanned, dug, drilled until their equipment failed. There was no trace of her. Command finally re-established contact hours later. Rescue teams arrived. Scientists, soldiers, officials. They sealed the area, built walls, set guards. The official report was short. One civilian researcher lost during a structural collapse. Case closed. The temple did not respond again. Days passed. Then weeks. The world moved on. But deep beneath the dead city, Lena opened her eyes. She was standing on a floor that looked like glass, but felt warm under her feet. The space around her was vast, stretching farther than her eyes could see, yet somehow enclosed. There were shapes in the air. Not bodies, not machines. They shifted slowly, like thoughts taking form. A voice spoke, not aloud, inside her mind. "You have entered the place between truths." Lena tried to speak, but her throat felt tight. "Where am I?" she managed. "You are inside the structure your kind named with shadows," the voice said. "A name built from fear and stories." "The Illuminati," Lena whispered. The shapes reacted, a ripple of motion passing through them. "A human word," the voice said. "Not our own." Lena's legs trembled, but she stayed upright. "Why me?" "Because you listened," the voice replied. "Because you followed the signal instead of ignoring it." Images flooded her mind. Stars dying, civilizations burning, species erased without ceremony, worlds abandoned. "You are the last observer," the voice said. "Your kind has reached the edge of its path." "No," Lena said, shaking her head. "You're wrong." The shapes shifted again. Curious now. "Your history says otherwise," the voice replied. "Conflict, division, self-destruction. That's not all we are," she said, her voice stronger. "You're only looking at the worst parts." Silence filled the space. Then the voice spoke again, quieter. "You will remain here," it said. "You will watch. You will record the end." The floor beneath her pulsed with soft light. Lena felt something touch her eyes. She screamed. Above the dead city, far beyond the sealed temple, the stars continued to shine. And somewhere deep inside the ancient structure, a human mind refused to accept the future it was being.